Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal with NVIDIA Daily Analysis. NVIDIA did some recovery today, so that's a good sign. In this video, we'll discuss NVIDIA stock price movement for today and try to make an assessment for early next week using financials, economic data, and technical charts. Now, let's get started. Starting with the daily summary, Nvidia opened at 119.53. It made a high 121.75. It made a low 117.22 and it closed at 119.37. That is 1.51% up. So Nvidia did some recovery from losses after earnings. And this is in line with my yesterday expectations. So I was hoping some recovery either today or early next week. I guess we should see more recovery sometime next week as well. And if you also remember, we had a PC index data due today. Let's take a look. So PC index data today came 2.5% versus the forecast 2.6%. I advised yesterday that based on my opinion, the PC index data should either match the forecast or would come below the forecast. So this is in line with my expectation as well. Let's take a look core CPI. So the core CPI also came lower than the forecast and that's also in line with my yesterday expectation. I had an opinion that core PC data also will either match the forecast or will come lower than the forecast. So that's a good sign and that sent positive signal to the market. And I also shared my opinion yesterday that if CP data comes lower than the forecast, then market most probably will go up. Let's take a look S&P and Nasdaq. As you see, S&P closed positive 1.01% up from yesterday and also Nasdaq 1.13% up today. And also Dow Jones 0.55% up today as well. So all three major indices closed positive today. And that also helped Nvidia. And the PC index data also helped Nvidia go up as well. Let's take a look one more time. If you see here, Nvidia tried to go further up and it touched 121 after the PC index data, but it did not have enough momentum to go further up, right? And then it closed around 120. But it's still a positive sign, and I think that Nvidia should carry some positive momentum sometime next week as well. And the PCE or inflation data lower than the forecast would also make a strong case for Fed to do the rate cut from next month. They already mentioned that they are trying to do that, but the CP data further gives them the confidence that they are going in the right direction of the rate cut. But next week, we have more important data coming up, and that is the unemployment rate and the job data. Let's take a look. Next week calendar. So, the next week calendar, Tuesday, nothing much coming up. Wednesday, nothing much as well. And Thursday, we have weekly initial jobless claim and also ADP employment, and that's also important. And Friday, we have the US employment report and the unemployment rate data coming up. And that's also very important. So Thursday and Friday are very important for the market because in last few cycle the job data has gained more attention in the market. So moving on, Nvidia last 5 days still negative minus 7.91%. Last 1 month 15.08% positive. You see that? Even if Nvidia went down probably about 8 or 9% in last 2 days, but still it's positive overall in last 1 month. Last 6 months 50.89% positive. Now let's take a look weekly candlestick chart and see how this week ended for Nvidia. So you see a weekly candlestick chart for last 1 year, and you can notice that last week Nvidia had a negative closing. And before that, 3 consecutive weeks, Nvidia had positive closing. So looking at the trend, it looks to me that next week probably Nvidia should have positive closing. So if you notice last 3 or 4 months, Nvidia has more green candlestick versus red candlestick, right? So more positive closing weeks versus negative closing weeks. So next week, probably the impact of the earnings will fade out and Nvidia should start gaining its momentum, probably in the upward direction. And also, the short sellers have to cover their position next week as well. Now, let's take a look forward P for Nvidia. So, Nvidia forward P at this point is at 41.71, lower than the last week closing. And as I mentioned, probably last week and before last week as well, whenever Nvidia goes below 40 forward PE, and that makes Nvidia an attractive buy. So if Nvidia drops a few percentage point in next few days, that will make Nvidia a good buy. Palantir forward P is 92.59, slightly lower than the last week closing. SMCI 13.77, a big drop from last week closing. AMD 41.48, a little drop from the last week closing. So SMCI for sure is not having a good time and it continues to go down. Now let's take a look technical charts. You see 90-day hourly interval chart for Nvidia on your screen and also MACD chart. So you can notice that MACD line started gaining some momentum as we expected yesterday. It's trying to touch the zero line but is still below the zero line. So probably sometime early next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, we might see more uptick on Nvidia. Now let's take a look Bollinger Bands. So as you can notice, the gap between the upper band and the lower band is shrinking. So that tells that Nvidia is going to enter in the consolidation mode. I mean, not enough momentum on the upside and also for the downside. So that suggests in next few days we may not see a big movement on Nvidia, either upside or downside. Now let's take a look Fibonacci levels. You see Fibonacci levels on your screen. For the short term period, I selected this point as my lowest point for Fibonacci and the highest point is 140.56. So in the short term, I see the next level of support 116.6, and you see Nvidia tried to go below but did not have enough momentum. And also on the upper side, you see the next resistance was 122. And you see Nvidia tried to go around 121 and 122, but it got a pushback, you know. So at this point is ranging between 122 and 116. So in my opinion, if it breaks 122 or 123 resistance level, then it won't be much difficult for Nvidia to reach 129. Also on the lower side, after 116, the next level of support is 110. But I do not expect Nvidia to go and touch 110 next week. The reason why I'm saying is today we saw positive closing on Nvidia. So after 2 days of negative closing in a row, you see a positive closing. So this tells that the chain of the negative momentum is breaking slowly. On the other side, if Nvidia had closed negative today, then there would have been more possibility for Nvidia to go down more next week. Now let's take a look at some news regarding Nvidia. So starting with this one that says Nvidia Blackwell chip potential signals a strong future growth. So that's good, right? So we know that the Blackwell chip is a big thing for Nvidia. Another one that says Nvidia sell off sets up a buy the dip chip trade. Why the S&P 500 could hit 6,000 by year end. Yeah, that makes sense, So probably yesterday was a good time to buy Nvidia when it was touching around 115 or 116, you know. But today it went up around 119 and 120, but still not a bad time to buy. So they should be able to make some money if they can buy and hold for some time. So now this one is about the buyback, and that says Nvidia's stock buyback plan is one of the biggest of 2024. Is that a good thing? Yes, it's a good thing, right? So the buyback plan from the management sends a good signal to the market that management is still confident on the future outlook. Now, one more price target, and this one is from Philips Securities, and they raised the price target to 155 from 140 and maintain buy rating. So, in my opinion, yes, 155 probably is achievable in next few months. So the reason why I'm saying, because at this point Nvidia is under pressure, but once it gains momentum and start going up, it becomes unstoppable, as we noticed in the last quarter and one more quarter prior. So in just a few days, you notice in the last quarter Nvidia went up about 15 or 20%. Now let's take a look other AI stocks. As you can notice in my watch list, most of the AI stocks are positive today, with the exception of SMCI and Apple. And the highest negative change is in SMCI, that is 2.48% down, and highest positive is Avago, that is 3.75% up. And Nvidia kind of lie in the middle, and that's a good thing. And I think that's all about NVIDIA analysis and assessment for today and early next week. Probably sometime tomorrow, I will present you with my analysis on the price range for NVIDIA that I'm expecting for this quarter. And that analysis will be very important. And I encourage you to watch that video that I'm going to load sometime tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more tomorrow. Take care.